have been coming to Colwyn Bay on the North Wales coast for a lovely week's holiday by the sea for decades. But I'm here to find out about a very different part of its history, when, just over 100 years ago, Colwyn Bay was directly linked to the Congo in Africa.
I'm here to look at the African Institute of Colwyn Bay, otherwise known as Congo House, because it was here over 100 years ago that nearly 100 students came from various countries of Africa to learn a whole range of skills. And they went back to Africa as missionaries, as teachers, as blacksmiths, as tailors, as printers, and a whole range of other things.
And all of this was set up by one man, the remarkable Rev William Hughes.
Jean and Nan, it's lovely to meet you.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Now then, Jean, you were the Reverend William Hughes' great-granddaughter, and he went over to the Congo.
He went out to the Congo as a Baptist missionary in 1882, and he was based here at Bainston in the Congo.
And how did he relate to the people he met there?
He worked very hard to improve the lives of people he met there and made some very special friends.
And he saw Africans in a very different light to other missionaries, didn't he?
Yes, he valued the culture and languages of Africa. He didn't want to turn Africa into Little England.
And that was a very enlightened opinion in colonial Britain of the 19th century. Reverend Hughes wrote that, and I quote, in his idea, training Africans as missionaries is that in all points they are like our brethren, of the same blood, the same humour, the same in everything, excepting in education and training. And he was determined to provide them with both those things. William Hughes returned to Britain when he became very ill with malaria in 1885, and he brought back with him his very first students, Nkanza and Kinkasa. What I'm finding out here is that the reason Reverend Hughes set up the African Institute in Colwyn Bay was so that he could train people from Africa who could work in Africa and who would therefore respect the communities they lived in and not try to change them. And this intrigues me. Why was William Hughes so aware of other people's languages and culture? To find out why, I need to know more about where he grew up and what influence this had on his life.
Nan, gefais ti dyfagu yn yr un ardal a dy hen ewythr?
Do, yn ardal Bryningan, ar ben ucha'r lôn goed. Ac yn Bryningan, yn ardal Bryningan, cafwyd yr ysgol Sul gynta yng Nghymru, sef mewn tŷ ffarm o'r enw Tyddyn Ruffydd. A mi oedd yr hen ewyrth William Hughes wedi cael ei fagu rhyw 2 milltir I lawr y lôn yn yr ardal yma. A mi oedd ar Williams Parry yn fardd, yn byw yn Talysarn, a mi oedd o'n canu am yr ardal yma. O lwc hagrwch cynnydd ar wyneb trist y gwaith. Mae bro rhwng môr a mynydd heb arni staen a chraith. Ond lle bu'r arad ar y ffridd yn rhwygo'r gwanwyn per o'r pridd. Ac am y cwmwnd yma oedd o'n sôn.
Bendigedig. Beth yn ei rwan mynd I mewn i'r capel?
Syniad da.
Gafodd o ei eni yn canol y 4yd ganrif ar 15. Pa fath o le o'r rhan ei diwylliant oedd Cymru yn yr amser hyn? A sut wnaeth hyn effeithio ar y llanc William Hughes?
Ganwyd William Hughes mewn oes gyffrous yng Nghymru. Roedd crefydd, diwylliant a barddoniaeth yn gryf iawn. Ac oedd o'n cael gwneud y cwbl yn ei faniaeth. Dyma'r ardal ddiwylledig lle y gallai William Hughes fynd i'r capel, darllen ei Beibl, dadlau a gwneud y cwbl yn y Gymreig. Mae o'n dweud yn ei lyfr Dark Africa and the Way Out nad oes dim mwy iachus na anadlu a nadl adra. A dyna beth oedd ei weledigaeth i ddod ar bechgyn o'r Congo i Mae Colwyn, fel ei bod nhw'n cael mynd adra i'r Congo.
Ac oedd o'n cydnabod nad oedd dylanwad cynyddol Lloegr, cymydog mwy Cymru yn hollol fuddiol i'w famwlad.
Na i ddarllen fel mae o'n i roed o yn ei eiriau ei hun yn ei lyfr. It is strong and a blunder to appoint Englishmen as judges, preachers and magistrates over the people of Wales. Even were they the best of men, they would be in the wrong place. They don't fit their place. They are square men in a round hall. They are ignorant of the Welsh language, unacquainted with affairs of the Welsh people, their poverty and their history.
And so it was here that William Hughes became fired up to help others by becoming a missionary. But it was also from here that he learned to value the culture of other indigenous communities. But before he could become a missionary, he had to learn English so that he could attend the Baptist College. And being the determined man that he was, he worked as a farmhand in Cheshire and as a shop assistant in Manchester until he could speak English well enough to enter the Baptist College in Llangollen. And its principal clearly thought very highly of him, so highly in fact that he agreed to let William Hughes marry his daughter.
Now, we know that William Hughes went out to the Congo in 1882, but he went out again, didn't he?
Yes, he went out again to recruit more students for the Institute in Colwyn Bay. And at that time he wrote this book as well, Dark Africa and the Way Out.
Deud wrtha i rwan, pam dan ni fyma a beth gyn o Parch William Hughes i wneud gyda'r safle yma fyma?
Wel, da ni'n sefyll yn bar Ceirias yn Mae Colwyn wrth gerrig yr orsedd. Ac heblaw bod William Hughes yn gysylltiedig â'r Congo Institute, oedd o hefyd yn cymryd rhan yn y diwylliant a'r iaith Gymreig yn lleol. A fo oedd ysgrifennydd cyffredinol Steddfod Genedlaethol Cymru 1910.
Reverend Hughes never forgot his Baptist ministry either, and he set up this tabernacle chapel in 1888, and it initially supported both the Welsh and the English Baptist congregations in Colwyn Bay. And while the Reverend Hughes was involved in all this work in the community, he was also ensuring that Congo House was going from strength to strength.
Well, I'm outside here. This is Paulson's Printing Works in Colwyn Bay, and it was here over 100 years ago that some students from the African Institute came to learn how to be printers. And it was in places like this, all around Colwyn Bay, where the students from the Institute learned a whole range of valuable skills to take back with them to Africa.
The African Institute ran for 22 years until it finally closed its door in 1912.
Now Jane, William Hughes fought hard to keep the Institute going. Why did it close?
It had always faced opposition, not least from the Baptist Missionary Society itself, who sent William Hughes over there in the first place.
And you have a letter here from one of William Hughes's missionary friends who says that the Missionary Society actually wants to crush William Hughes if he carries on with his work, because apparently it is missionary policy to change Africans, to change their culture so that they become more like Europeans.
Also against him was what we would call today the tabloid press. They hated the fact that the black male students were forming consensual relationships with white women.
Financial support for the Institute, which was dependent on public contributions, fell in the face of such opposition, no matter to what lengths Reverend Hughes went to keep the Institute going, and he fought very hard to keep it open. It was brought down by racism against the students and by personal vindictiveness against the Reverend Hughes himself.
After the Institute closed, the Reverend William Hughes decided to return to the Congo in 1917, and he wasn't going to go alone because he wanted to take with him 2,000 hymn books in the Cameroon language, the first time a hymn book had been produced in an indigenous African language. And the people of Colwyn Bay knew that they were about to lose somebody very, very special, and we know this because they presented him with something really rather spectacular to take with him. And I'm going to look at that now. Wow, Jane, this is spectacular.
Yes, it is, isn't it? It truly is an amazing citation given to him by the Council of Colwyn Bay. If you read this paragraph here, after a residence of 30 years among us, during which you have rendered invaluable services to the town, on councils, committees and the National Eisteddfod, preaching, lecturing, etc., in England, Ireland and in the Principality, crowned with your magnificent efforts on behalf of Africa, we, the undersigned, exceedingly regret your departure.
That is such a powerful statement.
Yes, it is.
Who signed it?
It's signed by ministers of the gospel in Colwyn Bay and outlying areas, and by councillors, magistrates, doctors, etc. What a wonderful citation.
Reverend Hughes never made his third journey to the Congo. The dangers of travelling by sea during the First World War, with British shipping being the target of German U-boats, made the voyage impossible. The legacy of Reverend Hughes' Congo House shines out when you see what his students did when they left the Institute to return to Africa.
Now, Nan, there's one student we haven't mentioned so far, and he's possibly the most famous. Tell me about him.
Yes, his name was Davidson Don Tengo Jabavu, who returned to South Africa. He was one of the founders of Fort Hare College.
Now, Fort Hare College is very important because it was the first higher education institute in South Africa to educate black students. And he mentored one very special student over there. Jean, tell me about him.
Yes, that was Nelson Mandela, who went on to be, as we know, the first black president of South Africa.
Now, Jean, not all the students made it back to Africa, did they?
No, sadly a few did die and are buried here in Colwyn Bay.
Newspapers of the day tell us that the people of Colwyn Bay turned out in their droves to attend the funerals of the 4 students who never made it back to Africa. While these graves are an important part of Welsh history, they also fill a very special place in the hearts of those in Africa. And the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo still visit their ancestors today.
I've learnt a lot about the Reverend William Hughes and the African Institute he set up here in Colwyn Bay. We live in a world now where attitudes towards those we see as different is hardening, and yet the vision that the Reverend William Hughes had in recognising and respecting difference and helping those when he thought he could help them is absolutely special. It's something that we desperately need in the world around us today. He was truly a very remarkable man.